Well, you guys came all this way and you want to know about Anwar and the Masters. Well, I want to too.
So, can you tell us a little bit about how you met them and how you came to manage them?
Next question.
What you got to remember is that it was a long time ago, right? Like a really long time ago, and it was so long ago that I can't remember the things that I remember. I mean, I can't remember the things I can't remember. I don't really remember which things I remember, which things I don't, because it was a bloody long time ago. But it was like I say, a really long time ago. But I do remember some things, and some things are like, clear and focused and sharper sort of memory, and other things are like fuzzy and dull.
What? What do you want to know, man?
Ask him about guitars. What guitar did you use for some of the tracks that you played on?
What guitar? You want to know which of the guitars that I own?
Yes.
That I chose for that particular track, because that would create some insight. Mm-hmm. People would be interested. Yes. in my choice. Mm-hmm. People think what I do on this particular project is interesting. Is that the reason for the question, or any other reason for this question?
That's I think it'd be interesting for the
no other hidden agenda.
No hidden agenda.
I think I seem to remember something about a guy called Ken. I think that's what his name was, and he didn't last very long, or he was asked to leave. Again, I don't remember, because it was, like I say, it was a really long time ago and I can't remember much. But with Ken, I do remember something about there was a...
Okay, so let me try. I mean, I didn't realize this was happening today. Okay. Ow. I can't laugh. Okay, it hurts it.
The money was really important for all of us, and we got none of it. We didn't make any money at all. It was ridiculous.
We used to go to this pub called the Hen and the Monkey, or the Monkey and the Biscuit, the orangutan, Hen and the Orangutan, or something. I don't remember, because it was a really long time ago. But
we were flinging ourselves around. It hurt, but we also ended up with some good shit.
what other thoughts did you have at that time? How did you choose that particular question?
Because I thought that people would be interested in knowing about what guitar you used.
Why would they be interested in that versus any of the other? What other questions were you thinking of asking?
Well, I was going to ask some questions about like the mixing console and some microphones.
Okay. 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 So the mixing console, microphones, guitars, objects. They're objects.
Right.
You want me to include your question in my answer?
Yeah.
So if you ask me what I had for like breakfast and I say bacon and cherries, I shouldn't say bacon and cherries. I should say for breakfast I had bacon and cherries.
Yes, sir.
I can do that.
Times we fill buckets. Times of dry pewter buckets. Buckets that cannot be filled. People that will outwalk the earth again.
Are you interested in ideas or?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Are objects part of ideas? Are ideas made up just of a conglomeration or a special sort of structural arrangement of objects, or are ideas objects themselves?
The mistake that many make is to put it in a contextual reality rather than a framed reality. When you talk about the signs, the referent, it is a coded language all its own. It exists in its own space, like in a. It is, think of it as this way, like a capsule in a bottle, right? There are many other capsules there in the bottle. But it exists in its own integrity.
Where Baudelaire, in Le Fleur du Mal, takes the nausea of his life and transforms it into beauty, Anwar are doing the reverse. They are taking the mind-stulting boredom and dank misery of their own lives and magnifying it tenfold.
They're the kind of band that you know, when you walk up, maybe you're riding a bike, you got some speed, and you're coming to an intersection, and you got to make a decision, like split-second decision, like your life depends on this decision, because you either stop that bike, because the car's coming, or you go through that intersection. And if you make the wrong choice, that's it, you could be dead. So that moment, like, we don't really have a name for that moment. It's like, is it hesitation? No, because you may not hesitate. You may go right through that intersection. So what is that moment? That moment where you make that quick decision. Well, that's where that band, that's where AATM, that's where they live. In that moment, that's their moment.
Oh yeah, I saw Anwar in the Masters. I saw him once. I lasted about an hour. Some friend of mine had free passes. Austin is a little town with a big guest list. But, yeah, they sucked. Yeah, they were awful.
And, it was a lot of pain, really. A lot of suffering, a lot of struggle, a lot of not being paid. Sometimes you get paid and sometimes you wouldn't. And sometimes we'd get paid in, like, non-convertible currency.
Second thing. Now what do you think about that? I used to be right up there with the golden roses and Schwartzes. Now I'm saddled up riding horses. just ain't right.
The idea, I mean, one of us just had it here. I mean, just here. One of us had the idea that was here, and we took it from there.
How you met them, how you came to start working with them, your involvement with them, with the group.
Involvement?
With the group.
Yeah, with the group?
Yes.
Okay. So it's about, I'm supposed to be answering, wait a minute, my involvement with the group?
Yes.
Okay.
It's like ideas, right? Which are like, yeah, they are a dozen, or I don't know, maybe they're more like, 5p a dozen.
They were just talking about falafel, so when they got off the phone, I said, I liked you talking about falafel. Are you in a band? Because he had, that coat with some sort of patch on it that looked like it could have, but it was probably a ripoff. It didn't mean anything. And I dropped my sticks.
So I was wondering how you met them for the first time, for example.
I got an email, because I was working for Nina's Easy at the time, and I got an email from, and, a typical kind of, hey, would you shred a solo on this thing for me? So I did it, sent it back, never heard a thing.
But ideas are like, there's no such thing really as an idea if you think about it, because everything is part of something else, right?
We often place a lot of importance on ideas, but at the end of the day, they're sort of a dime a dozen. I think execution is really more important.
Ideation, ideology, idolatry. That's where I was going with that.
We just, you gotta reach out for something or you're gonna sink like a fucking rock, man.
At first, when I met them, I was running a dungeon out in Berlin, and I was looking for a house band. When I first saw them play, I thought they were just going to be, the regular American cunts, but and also the name Masters didn't really work for us. We were thinking more in the line of, slaves.
They had, I think they had gotten some stuff from a pawn shop over on Bleecker Street.
We went to some cool places, like physical, man. I'm talking about towns and cities and shit. And, we got, caught up with some funky peeps and,
What many miss, I think, which is the mistake that is being made, is that they are thinking of the space as being limited, which it is confined. Again, we have the bottle, we have the size, the shape, but also it is unbounded, it is unframed.
It was as if you were in St. Petersburg before there was gentrification. It's a very different sort of feeling. A lot of the people in the first floors of these buildings simply live there, which is just blew our minds, And then upwards, you'd climb to, the higher floors, and there'd be also, dwellings. And, often they're full of people, and it was really, it was quite a scene.
Yeah, the people there didn't want us. And truthfully, I didn't want us to be there either. But that's what happened for the first 2 weeks.
I think Anwar and the Masters was nothing. We had never had anything like them ever. They were just completely out of, I wouldn't even say left field. I don't even know what. It was like a parallel field. Put them in the coffee shops sometimes. If you would ask for a certain kind of coffee, they would play you a track. It was very strange, very unusual, but very effective.
I think that, one thing leads to another, and you, even if no one cares, you just go somewhere with it, and you do.
We had what you would call maybe in America like a meetup group, or you talk about them. We had these small kind of salon discussion places, and you could come and we would play the music and talk about the tracks and the meaning of the tracks, and then sometimes the authorities would come and shut us down, so we'd have to keep abreast of them, keep ahead of them. The lyrics and where they were coming from, it was just an experience which really navigated everyone's primal elements. You really felt them in like the testicles or the ovaries, the deeper the chakra.
I only did one gig with them. Never again.
The cab would arrive and we'd step out and there'd be nobody there. People would be oblivious to what we were doing. And that was strange, because we were expecting a whole big shebang and it was nothing. There was not a thing. And we'd walk, looking about, trying to find recognition and finding nothing. And that was unnerving once again.
In his last years, he had no dough. He had to sell almost everything. And when he died, he was laid in a pauper's grave. Times move on, and fashions too. People's tastes will often change, but not today. His work is priceless beyond compare. What would he do? What would he do if he knew? Whoa, what would he do? What would he do if he knew? What would he do? 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 What would he do?
We we had to part ways when they were declared unwanted by the state of Germany for having collaborated with a slave that was, as it turned out, also selling nuclear secrets. Sadly, we lost touch at this point.
And face on it, for me it was all about the sandwiches. Because, sometimes you're working with people and the lunch is like, I don't know, it's Chinese food, or I don't like Chinese food, I never have, but it's just something mediocre sandwich, but for a sandwich lover, working with them was just an absolute delight.
We went to India, and if I recollect, we tried to, get some, again, I don't know. I don't know what we were trying to do there.
And then they called me up and they said, hey, do you still want your microphone back? And I was like, yeah. And they said, ha ha ha, it's in India.
Well, when I cut ties with them, I think it was the kosher cow incident that just pushed me over the edge.
We were in India, and I was trying to explain to them why they had a vegetarian meal. And these guys were not kind of like guys that would listen to anybody but themselves and their ego. And they wanted me to slaughter a cow of all creatures in India. I was like, dude, we don't do cows here. We can, if we can find a pig, we can do that, but not a cow. The cow's sacred. And so the next minute, it goes from like, okay, we're definitely going to kill a cow, a sacred cow, look a little on the anorexic side, was a little shy of meat, and then he wanted. Then one wanted it kosher, and so go find a rabbi in Delhi. And I was like, that's not. This is beyond job description as far as I'm concerned. But I had to do it because they were already shy on my prior payment. They told me everything was going fine on tour, and all the other things would get cleared, but it wasn't getting cleared. I think his name was Ravi Patel, something like that. I'm like, dude, just pretend to be, because he's kind of hairy and everything, and he looked like he could have a little Jewish thing inside of him, because he came from Kerala, which was where the Jewish town was down in the south, and he's like, look, he's a spice guy, just pretend to be Jewish, and slice, from right to left, and do like, something like, there's a prayer, something, anything with a prayer. And so blood squirts all over the place. The bucket was too small. Blood all over the place. And then they wanted it to congeal. They wanted it to stock. And then all hell broke loose.
In Ronkonkoma, the kosher butcher was an old friend of mine. We were old buddies. So I was in there gabbing with him. And in come these two stragglers. I don't know. They were kind of, a little hippy-dippy. I wasn't quite sure. They didn't look kosher, exactly. You know what I mean, for a kosher butcher? Anyway, I kind of ignored them. But then they interrupted me. I was talking to the butcher, and they interrupt, and they proposed that I cook for them. And I was like, who the fuck are you? So, I was like, all right, I'll make you one of my famous kosher chickens. And all the stuff that goes with it, the delicious accoutrements. And so we, I brought it over to them at the auditorium, and I tried to stay and listen to their concert, but it was just awful. I mean, it was unlistenable. Even the next day, they called me up on the phone, and they're like, oh, your food was so delicious. Where did you go? Why did you leave? And I tried to be nice. I just said, my kids are at home. I got to go home. And I couldn't stay, but really it was just the noise. I just couldn't take it.
If we're going to be making music, then there needs to be somebody there cooking. Because other than that, I don't know what the fuck the point is. Okay?
So when they came back, I told them, you guys make me sad. I don't want anything more to do with you. And so I stopped talking to those guys, I think, for about 17 and a half months.
You know, but I like to photograph, and back then, you know, you still had to like have film processed, right? And so a couple weeks after the tour, I went and had the film processed, and one of the photos involved my toothbrush inserted into someone's anus.
The first email didn't say Anwar and the Masters. It was from like Jim Shamrock or something. Yeah. And I thought the project was his, and then I found out later that I don't even know who this guy was, and nobody knows who this guy was.
Yeah, that was unquestionably the strangest gig I ever had, was working with Anwar. They sent me an email, and it said gig in the subject bar. So, I opened it, and it just said 4 figures. I thought, okay, it's a sort of funny way to offer $1,000, right? Because you figure if they say 4 figures, it's going to be on the low end. Anyway, we traded emails, and it was for $8,000. So, I don't know why they didn't just come out and say that, because, so, but $8,000, they're going to give me 4 up front, and they wanted some art. They wanted a gatefold for like a live album, and they said put your soul into it. I did put everything I had into it. I worked in paint and digital and collage and all sorts of pen and pastel, some crayons, and really tried to just make it great, and somehow reflect the music, I sent them the artwork. It took about a month, and they sent me the money, but the album apparently never came out. And what did happen, though, was they used my art in some crazy ritual that involved, apparently they hired a bunch of prostitutes, and they slaughtered all these animals. And it was just an orgy of sex and blood, and then burned my artwork at the end of it. Nothing like that had ever happened to me before with my work. And then since then, I just can't really listen to them, at least they paid me, right?
So the second email was from Bubba McDougal. And Bubba, no idea about Bubba either.
No matter what your idea is or who came up with it, it's it's still just still an idea, and like any part of any idea is somebody else's idea or a part of somebody else's idea.
There was something a little magical in this guy's voice, and I don't know if it was Anwar, or I don't even know if there really was an Anwar.
And he asked me my dates, and I told him the dates, and he said, so basically right away, he said, okay, we'll send you a limo. I was like, wow, send me a limo, all right.
I think the first couple times he didn't show up for the appointment, and then like a day after he showed up, and there were like 15 people.
I don't know whose limo this was, man, but the only thing in it, the bar was absinthe, creme de menthe, and lemon soda. I don't know what concoction you gotta make with those 3 things, but it can't be good.
and they all came in, and like they were ready to start recording right there, and I didn't have anything going on that day, so I said, well, yeah, sure, let's get started. Let's make a hit. That's kind of my catchphrase. Let's make a hit. People love that.
Beethoven, man, come on. Beethoven, man, come on. Beethoven, man, come on. Beethoven, man, come on. That shit had it going on, going on, going on, going on. Correct. Gonna make you fucking say, I wanna fucking ran. Cause he's got to pick number 9. Number 9. You think I'm dead? You ain't heard motherfucking thing yet with my number 9. My number 9.
Beethoven Man. Beethoven Man. This song seems to exude a kind of pompous superiority. A superiority perhaps over you and I, the listener. Ma comunque. Et pourtant. However, looking deeper, or should I say looking shallower, what we have is perhaps a superiority over Beethoven himself. Beethoven Man, come on. Da-da-da-da. Nice little riff, transforming melody into noise, but look at us, look at Anwar today. We are making entire symphonies of din. Rather than growing roses from shit, they are taking the shit and throwing it in our faces.
Their experimentation was very unique, but at some point we started to get worried about them. There were rumors of cannibalism, and when one of their collaborators had to amputate an arm, we were starting to question if their depravity had reached unacceptable levels.
We couldn't get into medical school, man, so we had to practice in other ways, and so we did this surgical procedure on an acquaintance, I think, and so we they didn't have money, and so we said, yeah, man, this would be a great way to see we can, learn, man.
我的名字是黄丽君，我是台湾人。7岁的时候移民到美国，我跟我爸爸跟二姐一起移民过来的。那时候我爸爸已经来了蛮久，大概4年了。因为我3岁的时候他就先过来，然后我们家有3姐妹，我是最小的。我的二姐大我5岁，然后我的大姐。
And they would sit in a circle, and I remember one guy, I forget his name now. He was kind of like a biker kind of guy. He said, "We're the band with no name." And then the next guy, they were like going around in a circle, and the next guy said, "But that's not our name."
We get to the studio. It's a small little studio in Oakland. It's kind of nice. And there was, the audio engineer was like this dude that was more than 6 feet tall, and he introduced himself as Midget. I asked him, I said, who are these guys? What do they do? I mean, how many are there? Is it one? Is it many? And he's like, man, I don't know. I got a call from this guy named Bubba who sent over the stuff. He put it in his machine. And then I showed up. So nobody really has any idea who these guys are.
I think Anwar actually did some interesting stuff with digital in the early days of digital. they were doing some interesting stuff splicing ADAT tape.
When we met, we had a conversation. Should we go digital? Should we go tape? More and more studios are finding digital, but still some have tape. So when we had a conversation, we maybe we should do tape. But then I said, well, I don't know. A lot of the studios are doing digital, so we just went ahead with digital. Then, we actually, after a little bit, we decided to do tape.
And then the next guy said, we're the band with no name. And then no name, but we have no name. No name is our name. And they would just like go around and around doing this crazy shit. And I'm setting up mics and the incense smoke is like billowing in. I'm thinking, what the fuck's going on here?
How would you describe listening to their music? What was listening to their music like for you?
Sounds like a bunch of frying pans, clanking together, or just a busy day at Whole Foods, or just an airplane. It was awful.
I went ahead and tried to find some of their records, but I had a really hard time, which obviously made me more excited about breaking the story. And I had to travel all the way to the ass end of East, but actually northwest, but it's sort of south, but it's actually kind of central because the L goes right there and it's actually like very easy. Anyway, I had to go all the way to East Williamsburg to get this record, which I found in the attic of a friend's record store, and then trek it all the way back home to Flatbush.
I am indeed grateful for this opportunity to contest the argument made by Dr. Alexander, call 1-800 for a quote, in the latest issue of Chime In. Mr. Call 1-800 for a quote, as I shall more accurately refer to him, has erected his argument in utter disregard of my own published work on the subject entitled Simply Masterful, Cambridge University Press. In Chapter 3 of Simply Masterful, I state 36 times that Anwar and the Masters are indeed touched by genius. And for this I provide ample evidence. The ensemble's lyrical pathos, their melodic bathos, and of course their fatuous smiles, incontrovertibly prove my case that the Masters are not a bunch of useless tossers.
So, I go in, I listen to the stuff. It's a little strange, it's got some kind of weird major changes in it, but hey, no big deal, I think I shred on like 2 or 3 of these tunes, and Midget, I could see Midget in the studio while I'm shredding. I can see him on the phone, really pissed off. Anyway, so I cut it, and I go back, and I'm like, dude, is everything okay? And he's like, well, there was supposed to be a producer here today. I'm like, yeah, I don't know if this this is good or not. I mean, it sounds good, but I don't know. I guess that was the whole idea, that no one really knows.
Back in the day when we were young, my friends and I would wonder where words came from. We often thought of our bodies and ourselves. Sometimes we'd expound on the notion to expel, and the rumors we'd sometimes would tell. Then the time came when the revelation hit. There were just 3 ways in that the body would permit, and that's why they call it a thumb. That's why they call it a thumb. A short digit on the side of both hands, opposed to the fingers, ideal for waistbands, 2 phalanges and metacarpal. Living in a world ruled by hormones. In the day when we were young, we talked about the words that came tripping off our tongues. Well, nothing's changed, it's still the same today. We often will explore our notion of outre, and the rumors we sometimes relay. Then the time came when the revelation hit. No 2 ways about it, everyone would benefit. This digit's something special, and that